What's going on, fellas? We got a rundown with this NFL Week 11 here. We're going to start off with the Commanders and the Eagles. Now, this is one of those games where, once again, we're questioning a lot that's going on with the Commanders. I don't know what's going on with their defense. I've been trying to figure it out, even ever since they played the Steelers, but something is not adding up. Something is missing. I don't know where it's happening, when it's happening, or anything like that, but something is not right. Now, in all honesty, the Commanders' offense, they did not do enough to win this game either. But 2 weeks in a row, here we see the Commanders' defense, losing to both the Pennsylvania teams. Jalen Hurts had to really depend on Saquon Barkley on this one to really win the game for the Eagles as well. Now that doesn't mean necessarily that Hurts played bad, but he really had to lean on Saquon Barkley to get this W. That's pretty much what that means. He didn't throw any touchdowns in this game. He was able to rush for one touchdown, but once again, he had to lean on Saquon Barkley, and they had to kick a couple field goals to actually win this game overall. But now the question for me in this entire game, as I'm watching it, I'm just questioning what's going on with the Commanders. Where are these things going wrong? What's actually changed as of late that's making the Commanders' defense look this bad? They're generally not this bad, so what changed? Do they have injuries that I'm not aware of? Because in this game, even though Jalen Hurts did not throw for a touchdown, the Commanders gave up 434 all-purpose yards. Now, rushing alone, they gave up 228. But of course, they're playing Saquon Barkley. He's going to get his part, especially when he's getting good blocking. It is what it is. But their offensive efficiency, once again, is also not good enough. And in football, man, you got to compete at all the phases. You got to compete in offense. You got to compete in defense. You got to compete in special teams. And time of possession, obviously that comes with offense, but these are four very important things in football. If you can't control the clock, you're giving the other team too much time to score. If your defense can't get off the field, they get too tired out for the fourth quarter or even the third quarter, for that matter of fact. Special teams, when it comes to field goal blocks or getting good punt returns or stuff like that, man, these are all phases that the Commanders currently are not really excelling at. They're not excelling at anything over the last 2 weeks, and I don't know what's going on. Now, like I said, it could be injuries. It could be people playing while hurt. You don't recover back to 100%, obviously, week in and week out. You're deep in the season right now. So we probably just have to accept that something is going on with the Commanders. They may lose a couple more games unless they can get their players to be fully healthy, back to 100%, or at least as close to 100% as possible before their bye week comes up. So there's definitely a lot right here that this season is riding on for the Commanders, but they got to get it figured out. The Eagles, like I said, they dominated in all three phases: offense, defense, special teams. They dominated all three phases of this game, and it's hard to win a football game, especially in the NFL, when you can't dominate the different phases of football. All right, so next up, we got to go over to the Browns and the Saints. Now, look, Browns fans, I know you guys got really excited when the Browns beat the Ravens. It looked like, I don't know, there was a second calling in the season or something, or just something. It was too good to be true. Let me just put it that way after they beat the Ravens. But I'll talk about the Ravens later on, especially with what happened in that game against the Browns, because the Ravens are having the same problem when they start to lose games. However, Browns Saints, I came into this game and I was like, well, they're both not very good right now. They're both trying to figure out really what they want to do, what their identity is, how they want to, compete in football. The Saints, like I said, in the beginning of the season, they came out, they were the flashy team. They scored so many points. Then all of a sudden they lost it. That momentum just fell off a cliff. The Browns, on the other hand, you had a lot of hopes, but nothing was really working out. And now they're trying to put it all back together. Of course, without their starting quarterback, who is out for the season. But Jameis Winston looked very promising, especially ever since he came in to cover for Deshaun Watson. Now, the Saints are having a really hard time, like I said, finding out who they are, right? Who's their quarterback going to be? Now, of course, Derek Carr is back while he was injured. It was not the easiest thing for them to figure out. And for the Browns, some new life was kind of breathed into the team with Jameis Winston. That didn't last very long at all. Now they cannot put wins together. And in this game, Jameis Winston actually played pretty well. He, completed 30 passes on 46 attempts, 395 yards and 2 touchdowns. But after he threw for those 2 touchdowns, that's where the story kind of ends for the Browns. The Saints really woke up in the second half of this game. In the fourth quarter alone, they scored 21 points and just kind of ran away with this game. Taysom Hill himself, yeah, he had a fumble, but, he had 7 carries for 138 yards, 3 touchdowns. He was kind of the difference maker in this game. Yeah, he gave away the 1 fumble, but we can forgive him for that because his performance was outstanding. I did not see this game really playing out the way that it actually did. I actually thought it would be a lot closer because I think the Saints and the Browns are kind of very similar teams right now. They're both struggling to find out who they want to be. They both want to throw the ball. They both want to run the ball, but they don't really know what their identity is quite yet. So I honestly thought this game would be a lot closer than it ended up being. So I'm a little bit pleasantly shocked that the Saints were able to run away with this one and that the Browns didn't do enough to stop the Saints from just, like I said, running away with this one. So that one I am actually pleasantly shocked to see. For both teams, you just have to consider that this year is just rebuilding, and next year is really what you're looking for either of these teams to take off. But they will have to make some good decisions in the draft and go find some players in free agency just to be able to change these teams around because they may lose quite a few players. Even some of their best players may be asking for trades with the Browns, so you never know what will actually happen, and that some of these trades or some of these players wanting to be traded or, bringing in some new draft picks could really change these teams completely for the better. To be honest, it could do the same thing for the worse as well. We'll just have to watch and see. Let's move on over to the Chiefs and the Bills. Man. The Achilles heel for the Bills was right here. It was on their turf in New York. They couldn't get over the hump until yesterday. I don't know what happened, but they finally did it. The Bills finally take down the Chiefs, and I was so glad to see it because I've been looking for a team to beat the Chiefs all season. Like I said, I didn't want them to go undefeated. Now, if they want to win out, it's perfectly fine with me, but I did not want to see them undefeated. The Chiefs, man, they hanged in there very closely, but the Bills were fighting back in every way, and everything that the Chiefs did, the Bills responded very quickly. In the second half, after the Bills took the 2-point lead, they kind of held on to that for the most part, and that was kind of the buffer between them and the Chiefs catching them. In the fourth quarter is kind of where all the fun truly happened in this game. The Bills were able to move that ball with their offense, and now the Bills went up 23-14, and this is kind of what the Chiefs do. They came in, they turned it back on, they brought the game up to 21-23, and, but then the play of the game had to happen. Josh Allen had to scramble and went to the house, making the game 30-21, and then forcing the Chiefs to have to throw the ball and become predictable. This was huge for them because Patrick Mahomes then throws his second interception, and that was the game. That was it for the game. The Chiefs are finally 9-1. Thank God. I know I'm saying this, but that's crazy, but thank God. They're a really good team. I finally found out one team that will beat them. Now, let's be clear. This does not mean the Bills will beat them in the postseason. As of right now, the Bills getting this win actually helps them because it could give them home field advantage against the Chiefs in the postseason. But the postseason is very different than the regular season. Now, don't get me wrong. A lot of things can still change between now and the end of the season. So let's actually see what ends up happening between now and the end of the season because this should be good. All right. If you are a college football fan and you watch this Jaguars-Lions game, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. The way Alabama beat Mercer is pretty much how the Lions beat up on the Jags. It was 52-6. This game was not even close. The Lions literally scored nothing but touchdowns, 1 field goal, and took a knee to kill the time in the fourth quarter to end the game. Impressive. They scored on every drive except for the last drive. That's impressive. That's almost unheard of in the NFL. Now, it happens from time to time, every now and then. It's going to happen, but that's almost unheard of, man. for them to come out and just put out this kind of dominating show. Now, I know Mac Jones was the one who started because Trevor Lawrence is still injured. Mac Jones looked a lot like he was still with New England. And that was kind of shocking to me because at first I thought maybe New England was the problem. Maybe they didn't have the right pieces around him or anything. I was being critical of him while he was with the Patriots, but maybe it was just him. Maybe he just reached his ceiling. Maybe it's not a New England problem. And that's something that they really have to figure it out. You know, I always wanted to give him more time to develop, and I didn't know he was the problem or if the team was the problem. But now seeing him play today, I'm starting to think New England was never the issue. And like I said, he just reached his ceiling, man. That's just what it is. And definitely New England could have been a part of it, but it was not a major reason that he played this way because we witnessed him do it again. Now, I hope he has a successful career. I'm not hating on the guy. I was just critical of him because he was the quarterback of my team. So I just had to be fair. And now he just kind of looks the same still, which is kind of shocking to me. But the Jags definitely need to get Trevor Lawrence back, get him healthy as quick as possible. And their defense has to do a lot better than giving up 52 points, even to the Lions, man. That's a lot of points. That's a real quick and easy way to lose a game. There should be no excuse to giving up this many points in the NFL, guys. You guys are paid too much for this. That's just not acceptable. Next up, we have the Raiders and the Dolphins. This one is pretty simple. Look, Tua Tagovailoa, he's back. It is what it is, but that man is back. He's fully healthy. It is what it looks like. We don't know if he's fully recovered from that concussion or not, but we know right now he's back and he's playing very well. This team went from a forgettable 2-6 season where I said the season was not over since Tua is back. Now they're 4-6. They're right back in the conversation. Can you imagine if they get back to 500, if they get to 6-6, what this will look like? 12 games in and you still have 5 games left. Man, that can change their entire season. They might even be able to come out in second place in the AFC East. The Patriots are not competing in the AFC East, not right now anyway. The Jets are wishy-washy, and you really have to worry about the Bills. So if things work out in their favor, actually a lot of things could really work out for the Dolphins right here, you know. But they just got to play through the rest of the season and keep that quarterback healthy, man. Keep him good and ready to go. They have so many weapons on the field that they can just throw the ball to. Wide receivers are getting open again since Tua has been back. And they're no longer getting frustrated and actually look like they don't have a chance to win the game when you look at the sideline for the Dolphins. So a lot of this stuff is changing over, which is great to see. I'm definitely glad that they're doing okay. Like I said, man, my main focus right now is just keep Tua healthy. That's the main focus for the Dolphins right now. All right, next up, let's go check out my boys here because they played the Rams in this game, and this was actually a fun one to watch. Rams, Patriots, man, you know, some people were trying to hype me up for this one, saying, oh, man, the Patriots got to win this game. And I'm like, guys, the Rams are not a bad team. Like, you guys are aware of this, right? They're not a bad team. A lot of people have been counting them out. If you check out my videos from a few weeks ago, maybe 4 or 5 weeks ago, I've been saying as soon as the Rams wake up and realize they're still in a season, they can get back to 500 and actually compete for the NFC West. And that's exactly what it was, you know. But over the last couple weeks, I mentioned that many times in my videos. Drake May came out. He didn't surprise me. He's playing very well. Throwing for 282 yards. He did throw a pick. And it definitely is what sealed the game for the Rams. I was okay with that. The guy's still playing very well for being, you know, a first-year quarterback. You know, there's a lot to look forward to next year. There are some pieces that, once again, will need to change, man. We're going to need some offensive linemen to protect him. We're going to need some more receivers, running back also to give Stevenson a break. There's a lot of things that are going to be needed, and even on defense, we're going to need a couple pieces, especially at corner. So, and safety for that matter of fact. So there's a lot to look forward to with New England. So Patriot fans, just hang in there, man. I know it's not the season we're used to seeing in New England, but it is what it is. Matthew Stafford, he had a great day himself, man. He threw for 295 yards and 4 touchdowns. What a day. You know, this is what we know the Rams can do. And they have a roster that can literally come out and win every week. They just, to me, didn't realize the season started after the first 4 or 5 games of the season. I just don't know what they were exactly doing or thinking, but they might have been just stuck in their heads thinking they were still in OTAs. You know, overall, I'm happy with what I have seen from Drake May. The Patriot fans, like I said, man, just hold out for this. It's redevelopment. We're not used to seeing it, but that's where we are right now. The Rams are back to 500, and they should be able to truly compete for that NFC West now. So let's see how they continue this streak. All right, now for me, this game was the most frustrating game of the weekend to watch. The Ravens and the Steelers. Oh, man. Okay, so as I'm watching this game, in all honesty, the first thing I'm thinking of was when Derrick Henry had that fumble, it was going to set the entire tone for the game. And I was right. Okay, so, and it was not a good tone to set for the game either. You know, one of the reasons that I've noticed the Ravens are losing games is when they don't run the ball enough. Yes, they can pass the ball. Yes, they have receivers and tight ends that can go get the ball. But at the same time, man, there's another man on that team named Derrick Henry. It's not acceptable to only give that man the ball 13 times. 13 times? In a whole game? Man, this man doesn't get ready to take off until 15 carries. Give him 25, 30 carries. There's no reason why he only got the ball 13 times. If that's what you plan to do, I don't even know why he's there. You can just let him go to another team that will actually use him effectively. But whoever made that decision, man, you got some questions to answer over there. That's just not enough. You know, I get Lamar Jackson can pass the ball, like I said. I get he can even run. He's a threat himself. But you got Derrick Henry. Feed the monster the ball, man. You got to give him the ball. After you give him the ball, you can come back and play action off of that, get the defense to back up a little bit, or even come in a press defense, catch them off guard with play action, beat them down the field, then feed the monster again, man. You got to give Derrick Henry the ball. You just got to. And every defense is waiting for that, and they still get beat by it. Give him the ball. Why is that so complicated? And for some reason, they still have a trend with the Steelers. Over the last 9 games, they only won 1 game against the Steelers. But something has been going on with Russell Wilson ever since he's been back, man. Like, I'm starting to notice the Steelers are playing a little differently. There's more urgency on the defensive side of the ball. And that has nothing to do with Russell because he plays quarterback. But this defense is playing lights out, man. Like I said, I'm trying to figure out what the motive is between Russell being the starter and the defense all of a sudden just playing so much better. But if the defense was playing this way while Justin Fields was the starter, they would have been undefeated. Let me put it that way, okay? But that's not the case. That's not exactly what happened, man. The Steelers in this game, now I think about it, did not even throw a touchdown. They did not even throw a touchdown in this entire game and still won 18-16. And the Ravens were not able to overcome that. They were not able to overcome 6 field goals in a game. They couldn't do it. So you got to run the ball if you're the Ravens. You can be a passing team, but your bread and butter is running the ball. Man, you got Lamar Jackson who can run the ball. That's not the focus right now. Don't get him hurt. Give Derrick Henry the ball, man. Give that man the ball. I honestly thought the Ravens would have been the team to figure out this Steelers team since Russell Wilson has been back. And man, how wrong was I, because they came in with a different game plan that made 0 sense. They came in with a game plan to lose the game. And for some reason, they're just being perfectly okay with that. I'm still trying to figure that part out in my head. I really do want to understand exactly what they were thinking, because this is not the game plan, man. The game plan is you're going to run the ball, you're going to feed the ball to Derrick Henry, you're going to pass the ball with Lamar Jackson. Don't get Lamar Jackson hurt. Make sure everybody else is okay. You're going to win games. Every game they have lost this season for the Ravens is because they didn't run the ball enough. Literally. That's it. The 2-point conversion at the end, once again, you committed treason. First of all, Derrick Henry's not even on the field. Why? If he's not on the field, it's a 2-point conversion. Who's the fastest man on the field on offense for the Ravens? Lamar Jackson. You kind of gave away what the play exactly would be. And when he tossed that ball back in, there were no receivers in the area or anything. He was just doing that for hope and hoping something would happen. That play was busted from the get-go. He hiked the ball. Lamar Jackson got it in his hands. The play was dead immediately. The Steelers killed that play right away. So if you're wondering why the Steelers are at the top of the AFC North, It's really not that hard to figure out. If you're wondering why the Ravens keep losing these games so closely, once again, it's not hard to figure out. They just are not following a game plan we all know that will actually work for them for some odd reason. But at this point, what I want to see is for the Steeler fans, get Russell Wilson back in the playoffs. I want to see him win a playoff game for the Steeler Nation. And, man, hopefully he'll be back in Pittsburgh for at least another year or something like that, because he's only on a 1-year contract. So we still have to wait and see exactly how that will turn out ultimately. All right, so next up, we got to go to the Vikings and the Titans. Now, this game, I got to be honest, man, I was pleasantly shocked with Will Levis and the way that he actually played, man. He showed up today. I don't know what happened here, but he came to play. You know, he threw for almost 300 yards in this game. A lot of people have just been counting him out. Maybe he's not a future quarterback of the Titans, or he's not a franchise quarterback and all that. Man, this is the NFL, man. You got to give these guys a little bit of time to develop and actually get coached up. And all of these things are very important. All of these things are very important. And even Justin Herbert's for the Chargers, you know, you see he was kind of not necessarily mediocre, but he wasn't as good as he is now. And what changed? His coach. Coaching matters. And same thing for the Titans. You got to remember they lost their coach in Mike Vrabel after last year, and they got a new coach. He has to coach up the team, got to coach up the quarterback. He has to make them feel comfortable back there. And the Titans, I think, are doing a pretty decent job at, you know, getting Will Levis ready for next year. I mean, that's what their job is right now, is to get him ready for next year. No questions asked. But even though the Titans are rebuilding this year, man, they gave the Vikings a battle in this game. You know, the scoreboard is a 10-point difference, but that did not tell the story in this game, man. This one was one of those where, if you're a college fan, it's like when Kentucky played Georgia. You know, the game ended in 1 point difference, but that 1 point did not tell the story of the game because, in all honesty, the Titans should have won this on more than one occasion. They just couldn't capitalize on it. Last night's game, and this game was fun. The Bengals and the Chargers. If you didn't watch it, please go watch the highlights because this game was insanely good. You know, the Bengals were trying to figure out what to do when they got to the red zone. They just couldn't get in the end zone, so they had to kick 2 field goals. Next thing you know, they look up, and they're down really bad on the scoreboard. Now, the Chargers, you know, come in. They score 2 touchdowns back-to-back. It was quick. The Bengals, they got to get it together when they get in the red zone, man. Justin Herbert, in the beginning, he was 6 for 6, 123 yards and 2 touchdowns. I mean, just right off the back. You know, and that was just the first 2 drives. You know, nothing else is going on. Even on the third possession, the Chargers just looked untouchable. Justin Herbert scrambling for quite a lot of yards, making this defense think about him and having to worry about him scrambling again. The defense is trying to show different coverages. You know, they showed mixed zone with some man-to-man on the other side. It wasn't working. Mixing some zone and man-to-man, but Justin Herbert was just not falling for that. He was just not falling for it. He read the defense, and so many routes that the receivers were opening would just open up the field, and he would just take off. So that was definitely not working for the Bengals at all. But, however, when the Chargers got to the goal line in their third possession, they got stuffed at the goal line, which was actually impressive and kind of a turnaround point for the Bengals, you know. But they did try on the 4th down. They still got in the end zone. So at this point, it's already 21-6, and nothing else has been done. Now, one would start to think that the way the first 3 possessions for the Chargers are going is kind of the story of the game. But in the second half, however, the story completely flipped. All of a sudden, the Bengals are dominating the second half. You look up at the scoreboard again, and it's 27-20 when it was just 21-6. The Chargers got caught off guard. You know, they got caught being content with the way that they were playing. They thought the Bengals were just asleep for the entire game, and they didn't take the second half seriously. So it's almost the same thing exactly what happened actually when the Texans played the Lions. The Texans scored very well and played very well in the first half, and in the second half, they just fell asleep. But this time, this was not the case. You know, I've said this for many weeks. You pay Joe Burrow his money. Trust him to run this offense. Work with the offensive coordinator to do what this man can do best. And when that happened, this game was tied up 27-27 very quickly. And it was impressive to watch this happen. You know, the Bengals had all the momentum at this point. You know, the game tied up, like I said. Now, the Chargers were stuck a little bit, and McPherson for the Bengals did come out and miss a 51-yard field goal attempt. Um, if he would have made that, I think they could have won the game. But to be honest, J.K. Dobbins comes out with 18 seconds left in the game and runs a 29-yard rush to the end zone. And that's just kind of how the game ended. It was kind of the nail in the coffin. So, man, what an exciting game. This one right here, if you were a Bengals fan, I know you were on the front part of your chair almost falling off just on your tippy toes holding you up. But great game. Thank you very much. This one was entertaining, man. Go check out the highlights for sure, guys. All right, well, Monday has come and gone. We finally got our Monday night game between the Texans and the Cowboys. And this was one of those games where, you know, I witnessed something for the first time that I didn't even know was a rule in football. First of all, it was the head slap penalty. Did anybody see that? Because there were so many penalties in this game, it was kind of hard to keep track of. I lost track of penalties after both teams added up to more than 140 yards in penalties. At that point, it was just getting bad. But I've seen illegal hands in the face, but an illegal head slap penalty, once again, I didn't even know that was in the rule book. So I learned something new today from this game. But for the Texans, man, today was the day for Stingley Jr., the corner, because he had a great day. You know, he gave CeeDee Lamb a run for his money. You know, every time the ball was overthrown in the right place, Stingley was there to pick it up. Except we finally found out why he's actually a corner, because it seems like he can't really catch that well. And good thing he's a corner, not a receiver, right? But he almost ran the route for CeeDee Lamb, almost picked the ball off inside the end zone, but CeeDee Lamb had to pull his right arm back to make sure it wasn't an interception and took the pass interference, which was actually pretty smart on his end. But the Texans came out pretty strong in the first half, but then they kind of, slowed down quite a bit, especially in the second quarter on the first half. Tank Dell, on the other hand, what is up with this guy, man? He just keeps dropping passes for no reason. Like, sometimes you would think these are very easy passes for him to catch, especially with the level of talent he had that we know he has. But for some reason, he just drops the ball, and, that's that. I'm definitely glad that they got Nico Collins to come back in. But once again, Nico Collins is the reason why these plays from the offensive coordinator are actually working, because he's actually opening up the field and probably their best route runner by far. And what that's doing is it's allowing C.J. Stroud to actually get time, because they can't send so many people to blitz him. But they got to get plays that gets the ball out of C.J. Stroud's hands much quicker. The plays just take far too long to develop, and some of the players are just not dependable to catch it, like Tank Dell. And I don't know why that is, because this was clearly not the case last year with Tank Dell. Of course, obviously he got hurt last year. We know that, and he was out for the rest of the season after he was hurt. But, man, you got to catch 150 balls before you leave practice every day, because you keep dropping these passes for absolutely no reason. On this one, I got to say the refs were intervening far too much. As I mentioned earlier, I lost count of how many penalty yards there were after 140. I just stopped counting, because in all honesty, the penalties were just kind of out of control. There was too much of it. It was kind of getting in the way of the game. And from there, the Texans kind of took advantage of even the brawl that happened later on in the fourth quarter. They took advantage of that brawl. They kind of got under the skin of the Cowboys, and they scored a touchdown to kind of seal the deal. Now, to be honest, that was their first touchdown in the second half in 23 possessions. That's not a good stat to have. The simple fact that they have actually a good record at 7-4 actually speaks a lot to coaching and them being able to manage games and scoring points in the first half and surviving games, because for 23 possessions, for you not to score a touchdown in the second half and you're still winning games means you did a lot in the first half, and just you're a team known for falling asleep in the second half. So a team like the Lions last week were able to take advantage of that. Also, in the fourth quarter, with 12 minutes left to go, I think the Texans defense wanted to kind of set the precedence that they got to score in the second half because they did it first. I mean, when I say the 23 possessions, I'm talking about the offense. But the defense came out, got a double fumble, literally in the same play, and ran it back for a touchdown. I think that kind of picked up the Texans offense a little bit and say, hey, we got to go down the field and score. It can't just be our defense doing this for us in the second half. For the Cowboys, man, there's a lot of frustration going on with that team, especially CeeDee Lamb, Micah Parsons. I mean, you can see it in their face. Even the brawl that happened in the fourth quarter was simply due to just frustration. And you can tell in the players' faces. But there's not too much that they can say. Obviously, they got to play it cool, and we definitely understand that part. But at the same time, man, they gotta figure something out for these guys, a different scheme. And I forgot they had Trey Lance. Why is Trey Lance not on the field? If he's healthy and ready to go, he might be a better option than Cooper Rush. I'm not certain. Obviously they know the scout defense much better than I do as they see him practice. If they let him practice, that's another part of the conversation as well. But if he's not getting enough reps, you got to get that guy some reps, man, because he's someone that can at least help get you a couple of wins over the remainder weeks of this NFL season. Cooper Rush, I'm not saying he's bad, but he definitely gets better as the game progresses. He's not the best quarterback, obviously, when the game starts, but once he makes those mistakes, you start to notice he does not make the same mistakes over and over again, and he actually improves in skill level as the game progresses and he gets more comfortable. And I don't know if that's just shaking off the nerves or just coming in and you're just nervous because you could lose your job to Trey Lance, who's sitting there waiting for you to make mistakes so he can get a chance to show that he can be a quarterback in this league and potentially get traded to another team next year. So there's a lot going on in his head, I'm sure. But Cooper Rush, calm it down, man. You're still a professional. You're there for a reason. You're good enough to play. And that's just the truth, Don't lose this position just because Trey Lance may be in your head or the coaches are in your head or something like that, man. Just focus on your game and get better. Whatever you do to get better as the game is progressing, that's what you need to do to get started back in the beginning of the games. And I think you guys will be fine for this year. But I think we can definitely close the book on this year for the Cowboys. Just make sure not to lose out. At least have a couple wins and a good morale for next year. But that's really all I got to say about this one. Good job to the Texans for getting the W. Nico Collins is back. This offense looks different. But still, those plays are taking too long to develop, man. They got to do something about that. Seriously, it's not a good formula for them. Joe Mixon, obviously, is mixing it up in there for them. He's doing a great job as a running back, but get that ball out of C.J. Stroud's hands, man. But thank you guys for listening. I'm going to call that an end for this rundown for the Texans and the Cowboys. Thank you very much for your time today, guys. Definitely like and subscribe, and we will have much more coming for you. Have a good one.